Hey, Retention Pros. I'm Noah Rahimzadeh, and I lead partnerships here at Malomo. I'm super pumped to continue to chat with ecosystem experts alongside Mariah, who you all already know and love. Say hi, Mariah.
Hey everyone, as you probably know, Retention Chronicles likes to bring in some of the best retention focused brands in the Shopify ecosystem.
But we don't just feature brands, we also feature some great thought leaders in the Shopify ecosystem that serve brands.
And because we always want these conversations to be fun, you'll hear us talk with our guests about what they're excited about and what's helped them get to where they are today.
We hope you'll stick around to learn and laugh with us.
Retention Chronicles is sponsored by Malomo, a shipment and order tracking platform improving the post-purchase experience. Be sure to subscribe and check out all of our episodes at gomalomo.com. So hello everyone. If you saw the title of the episode, then you might know that this is a special edition of Retention Chronicles because we are rounding out season 3 and going into season 4, which is always exciting. So for this episode, we have taken clips from our favorite episodes with our partners, and in between each clip, I'm going to be telling you which episode you can go back and listen to the whole conversation if it pleases you. So this first clip is from Drew Himmel, who is the founder and CEO of Fireside. Enjoy!
And what I know you talked about that a little bit, and what I heard was like what attracted you to e-commerce, which is really interesting, is like I think the ability to properly attribute like value based on like inputs and outputs and properly attribute revenue and all of the other things that drive it. Is that right? And is there anything else that sort of made you think this is sort of the future of commerce and it's where I need to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very much like fundamental where like, to track, I mean, we even did stuff with like restaurant groups and everything else. It's very difficult to get the ROI. And so for us, it is always around like, what is the value of our efforts? And so within ecom, everything is trackable. If anything, there's like too much data for these brands to make heads or tails of what's actually going on and what's effective and what's not.
From episode 3 of season 3, we're joined by Dylan Briers, Jacob Paddock, and Liam Verrigan at Applo.
In terms of Black Friday versus Cyber Monday, for us specifically and focusing on the e-com space, are there any differences in terms of strategies that you recommend brands employ on the different days?
Yeah, so I think it can go many ways. We're not a huge fan of turning off Black Friday ads on Cyber Monday, mostly because you do run with some risk with Facebook. I'll use Facebook as an example because that's where most brands are still spending the bulk of their advertising dollars, or I should say Meta. So we'll often run Cyber Monday ads alongside Black Friday. That way, in doing that process, if the Black Friday ads continue to be the top performers, they will get the bulk of the spend. And there's a small chance sometimes that when you try live ads, they get disapproved or they get stuck in processing. These things do happen sometimes. And on those days when you're trying to push a lot of budget behind the platforms, you want to make sure that your ads are actually live.
On episode 5 of season 3, we're joined by Meir Bianchi at Bemire.
There's a lot of people that have seen success in the Shopify ecosystem, so it's self-propelling because it's like, hey, if you've been able to make X brand X millions of dollars, well, then let's do it again following a similar playbook. And there's been a lot of that. And so I just think as trends shift, or as things shift like socially or, consumer tastes, but also like, these external forces like Google and cookies and like advertising or like laws changing in Europe, which affects Facebook. I would say that's where we're seeing brands have to like push how they engage with customers and how they acquire traffic. And so I think it's just always going to be something that's like shaking it up. But because Shopify is such a big company now and they're continuously innovating, and there's so many people that are passionate members of the ecosystem, like ourselves included, like, you know, like if you want to do Web3 and token gating, you can do that on Shopify. If you want to focus on loyalty, you can do that on Shopify. If you want to focus on any aspect of your e-commerce experience or go omni-channel, and like, you know, the POS part of it's growing. So I would just say it all is at the mercy of how each part of the product matures. But because there's so many invested parties, I would say they're propelling it forward. And like this whole commerce components launch, I think is a statement, I guess, for like shareholders and like trying to address that market fit. But then I think also because it's them, they can actually push that forward a year from now and have more banner clients, because, you know, why wouldn't brands want to take advantage of more being like, be able to be more dynamic?
This next one is from episode 7 of season 3 with Ari Murray, VP of Growth at Sharma Brands and author of Go to Millions newsletter.
I posted a role for, I think it was the director of growth, and my husband is friends with Nick, and a few of the people that I just know were good friends with Nick. So I made them all text him in the same second to be like, Ari would kill it as your director of growth.
That's awesome.
And
That's
then
amazing.
He texted me and was like, oh, I keep hearing your name. I was like, oh, really? And then like I think I like signed my offer the next day. So it was very quick.
What is the ICP? You talked a little bit about it earlier. And then what does a typical engagement look like from like start to finish for
Yeah,
sure?
so ICP definitely is a brand that either has a big audience that's waiting for this product. Let's say it's a creator brand that is stealth pre-launch. That's perfect. That is what we do best. That's really our team's specialty, is to take a brand, build the entire website, design it, handle the devs, bring in all agencies, set the brand up for launch, and then help it to scale. That's the bread and butter. And then the other side is the growth stage companies that are doing like 8 figures and they have a specific problem and they could use a partner to help them get to 9 figures, or that can help them to fix part of their funnel, or something has either gone wrong or there's just room to scale that hasn't been realized. That's also a great sweet spot. And for that client, it might be just taking over, redoing their tech stack, introducing them to the right people, building landing pages, building ads, redoing parts of their website, and just like optimizing the entire experience. That's the other client, but there's really nothing in between those two. You're either going to be a big brand that's about to launch, or you're a big brand that needs some help. And those are both perfect for us.
Jim Breeze, head of growth at AppHub, joins us from episode 9 of season 3.
But I think retention is going to be the most important metric for SaaS companies going forward. Like you just cannot ignore the fact that money is falling out. Like, fix the holes in your bucket before you go add new features or go acquire new customers, because optimizing a few percentage points on your registration page, you know, having interactive exit funnels for cancellation, all those things are going to play a much bigger role when you go and have the ability to go acquire more customers, because now that bucket has a lot less holes in it. So I think it's very, very important to not ignore the fact that if you have high retention, you have an issue, or if you have low retention, you have an issue. You need to take care of that, because it's not just going to magically fix itself. Because you see founders are like, they just don't get it. Well, then explain it to them, demonstrate it to them, educate them, show them, So retention is going to be big.
From episode 11 of season 3, Thomas Kimura, founder of Brickspace Lab, joins us.
But definitely for like some of those more like aesthetic Instagram brands, the photography is probably number one. I think that's one of the components on like a website where it can make something go from looking really kind of unprofessional to making something looking completely top grade, like top notch. Photography is a big part of that, because if you think about it, Shopify or any website really, like if you're looking at a grid of products and you've got a little bit of text under each photo, like the name of the product, 90% of that design is just the photos. So that is a really important component.
On episode 13, we're joined by Chelsea Jones and Rachel Saul, co-founders of Chelsea and Rachel.
I love this conversation because to me, omni-channel became the trendy buzzword from a bunch of marketers. But the reality is when it comes to business and when it comes to like retail itself, it's been trying to figure out how do we make this more accessible online, because historically retail brands, it was the lion's share of, the foot traffic. So I think exactly what you were saying, you have to be a lot more innovative. You have to be a lot more creative on how you're presenting your brand that much more online, because your consumer buyers expect that, right? It's a perfect example is like Apple and Apple products, right? Now, so many of us have iPhones and you get used to the updates and the user experience like on a massive scale, but the apple.com website is very different on your desktop versus your mobile. And it was done that intentionally. You have to have a simplistic user experience design for how you're working on mobile versus how you're working on desktop, et cetera. And I think retail, it's the same way. How your storefront needs to reflect in your mobile, needs to reflect in your desktop, but it has to be positioned to your customer at that buying path right there. So to make it easier and to make it like in flow, that's what I think is top of mind for a lot of these brands looking at omni-channel. It's less about the term omni-channel as it is about how do we really serve customers holistically in this, and then have it simple to check out, whether it's on our store, in our site, on our mobile device. All of that should be connected and should be more seamless. So it's more of like, how are these channels becoming simplified and more seamless?
From season 3, episode 15, we're joined by Josh Shin, co-founder and CEO of Kronos.
When you look at the economics of an initial purchase, you have COGS, which accounts for, call it 30%, the cost of acquiring a customer.
Yep.
Going to ad spend, and mostly ad spend, that's going to be about 50%, thereabouts on average. And that leaves a tiny bit of margins for OPEX. And for most businesses, that 20% isn't even there because the cost of acquiring a customer is just so high.
Right.
And when you look at retention and what email, SMS, and all these channels can do, it effectively removes the need for cost of acquisition completely by diverting all these resources into sending an email, sending a text, which costs you a quarter of a cent. And when you look at that, it dramatically shifts the levels of profitability within a 14-day period. So what I like to do is I like to maximize the profitability of a customer within the first 14 days, while interest levels, excitement is at its all-time high. So that includes, and Maloma is a great tool for this as well, the post-purchase experience. What we like to do is during the post-purchase experience, we like to identify key moments of interactions where excitement and interest is at its peak, and introduce new products that are relevant and exciting for the customer at an unbeatable price, offer, package, or whatever. And once we get over the hump of the second purchase, what we found is that the third and fourth purchase becomes a lot easier because we have now had 2 moments of truth versus just one.
From episode 17 with Eric Huberman, founder and CEO of Hawk Media.
The funny thing is who we compete with is like the 5-person Facebook shop in someone's spare bedroom.
Right.
And I frankly and this is just being transparent about our challenge. My challenge is like trying to explain to people, like, you want to go work with someone to grow your business has no idea to grow their own. Like once in a while, there are agencies like that are just getting started, that are on a ramp and they're good and you can get a good one. They exist. I don't want to be like, but 99% of the time, it's someone that just can't keep any of their clients. Is why they can't grow. Nobody wants to run a 5-person Facebook agency. They can tell you that as a sales pitch, but nobody's happy doing all the work and not being able to scale their business. And if they are, you're trusting someone that doesn't like scale to scale. Like it's just that's always been crazy to me. And so, for us, we figured out how to, at scale, keep the same level of service, keep the same, like, we know all the jabs of larger agencies where it's like, oh, we're going to fall through the cracks. Well, no, that would mean our agency would suck. Like, we're month to month. If we don't take care of you, you fire us next month. If all of my clients fire me after a month, I don't have a business. Right. So it's about keeping, showing that we know how to grow, we know the roadmap. And whenever someone says, how do I vet the agencies I should work with? I'm like, find someone that's already taken someone from where you are to where you want to be. That's number one. Like, that, don't be the test subject. If they've done it, do it. Right. Like, because then they can just run a playbook. And most of marketing is sort of that baseline rinse and repeat scalable piece, because if it's not predictable and you can't run a business off it. You need predictability in marketing. About 10% of it is the like flash in the pan, go viral, do some big campaigns, that kind of stuff. But 90% of it is rinse and repeat, like do the best practices. And if you've got a good product and you run the best practices, you should be great.
And next up, we're listening to a clip from episode 19 with Casey Matthew, founder and CEO of Skylab.
And so we've actually been working really hard on lowering their CPAs on Meta platforms. Believe it or not, we've been very successful in that. And it just comes down to the framework and the structure of how we set up their entire campaigns. Now we're starting to expand on other platforms like Pinterest and a few others that I don't want to reveal yet, but our partnership with them is awesome. I love everybody that works there. Our team does too. And they treat us well just as much as we treat them well too.
That's awesome. Do you feel like you've figured anything out in Meta or Facebook that's like scalable? Just in terms of, I know there's one going on and it's not really my wheelhouse, the acquisition side, but I am interested in it. So like, is there anything that you sort of had a revelation on that you think you could scale to other clients?
In some ways, like you think it would be a lot more complicated than it is. Sometimes you're just staring right in front of your face. One thing that I've always seen work for any apparel brand, even when I was a media buyer back in the day, we're running product feed campaigns specifically for those that are on apparel, just taking their product feed, constantly updating it based on collection or product SKU or seasonality, whatever it may be, and just running GABA campaigns on that and making sure that the campaigns itself are broad and using certain placements, because there are times where you pull in the product feed and maybe the images don't fit the requirements of Facebook, Instagram stories, whatever it may be. So it's just becoming, because everyone nowadays, they're always saying be broad as possible because of the Facebook pixel and iOS and whatnot, right? In a sense, that is true, but you can still be granular in all of your targeting. You can still have different data sets and target based on that product collection. You can still A/B test, ad copy messaging. You can still do a lot of things that are very intent based and still keep it broad and scale. Obviously, you want to wrap that up and remarket users based on whatever intent it may be and identifying that with the brand and what their needs are as well. That's kind of approach that we always take. And I think doing it incrementally as well, and not just, pouring $100,000 in 1 week or 1 month. I think if you, in my opinion, slow and steady wins the race.
From episode 21, Adam Robinson, founder and CEO of Retention.com.
So how does it work? There are many networks. There are cookie pools. Like these are all foreign concepts, but like in ad tech, which is the anonymized banner ad world, right? There's like Facebook and Google, but there's like a bunch of open internet ad tech providers. A lot of ad tech, the persistent identifier that follows somebody across websites is an MD5 email hash. Interesting.
Okay.
So we look out for these MD5 email hashes in people's browsers, and we have a way to basically de-anonymize them. You're not supposed to be able to, but turns out if you have every email address that ever existed, then you can MD5 all of those and then just do like a VLOOKUP. And we have opt-ins through a co-reg network for every email that we provide people. It's not a legal necessity. We just do that because generally when a consumer asks, where did you get my email? And we send them an opt-in of where they opted into this network, they immediately are satisfied with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically how it works. And then the real magic of it is we clean these email addresses. We're purchasing signal data, opens and clicks from the rest of the email ecosystem. Like you can buy anonymized open and clicks. So like we only give people email addresses that have like opened and clicked elsewhere in the past like 24 hours, 7 days, depending on like other characteristics of the email address. So we basically reverse engineer like the hottest possible email addresses, and then pass them over to the brand. So yeah, it's an aggressive tactic. Like I'm not in any way trying to construe that it is not, but it is amazing in how effective it is.
And legal.
It's not actually, it's not actually like retention either. I just thought it was close enough to retention to like be retention.com is our name. I actually want to create a category called customer recapture that like, you know, embodies what we do. And there's a couple indirect competitors that do it too. I think it would be helpful for brands.
I like just wrote down on my notes here. It seems very acquisition focused. Why not acquisition.com instead of retention.com? Do you see use cases on the retention side, or did it just feel like this makes sense?
The name?
Yeah. Like, do you
like so look, the way I looked at it is like there's retention as e-commerce people talk about retention, but like then there's also just like it is retaining people who are it's retaining website and funnel leakage, right? Like it's not loyalty, rewards, reviews, like whatever, like the Yotpo suite, if you want to call it that. But it is in some way retention. And I could get the domain, and it's so much authority. Like so put it this way, I didn't think that there was a better name that I could get.
And our last clip is from episode 23 with Casey Luck, founder and CEO of Luck & Co.
The team in general is doing a lot of exciting things, but some of the stuff that I like personally worked with, they're, you know, it's kind of, I don't know if it's a basic thing or not basic thing, but it's one of the most common conversations around email is people don't read, right? Like, why send long emails? People don't read anyway. And as an agency, we often get feedback from clients or like, let's make this shorter. Like, why is this email so long? People don't read. And so we've done a series of A/B tests. And I love that it was like really a series of tests and not just one test that showed that for this particular brand, and you know, like don't take these results and just apply them to your brand as is. I still recommend that everybody test because everyone's audience is different. But for this one brand, we tested shorter emails versus longer emails, and even like those shorter emails, like they still contain like good information. And it was the brand's actually like the brand was advocating for longer emails, which is unusual for us.
Yeah.
And I was on the devil's advocate side this time, but I was like, okay, yes, that's a valid test. Let's test it. And much longer emails won over shorter emails. And that brand, like, you know, if like speaking generally, they sell sort of like supplement stuff things. Okay. Let's just call them supplements. And so their audience just really needs education, and they want to learn how the supplements work and what do they do to your body and like what are the alternatives and why do alternatives don't work, and all of that stuff. So I think maybe this like the learning from this story is that it's worth testing even like the most basic assumptions that you have about your audience. If you've never tested that, test it. If it's been a while that you've tested that, test it again.